Hi, friends. It's Nicole and Holly. Welcome back to the Purpose Beyond Motherhood podcast. We are so glad that you're here. We have just an amazing guest today. I'm so excited. I am just a huge fan of this woman and
Mhm.
how she is making an impact for the kingdom. Amy Ford is here, you guys. Hi, Amy.
Woo woo.
Hey, so great to be here.
Holly, can you tell us a little bit about Amy?
Yes. Yeah, before we hopped on here, I was like, I just need everyone to know how legit Amy is. So Amy is the founder and president of Embrace Grace, which is an amazing nonprofit that works with women that have unexpected pregnancies. They have supported over 1,100 groups. Oh my goodness. 1,100 groups are active in churches around the world. I love that so much. They have a curriculum, they have support groups. They just offer aid to these women to walk alongside them in every aspect of the word. So I got to meet Amy. Did I host you at a Pink Impact? I did.
Oh yeah,
I hosted.
you were my handler, which I
Yes.
hate that word. What does that
So I
even
got,
mean?
I know that it's a little bit of a strange concept, but I got to meet Amy when I was partnered to care for her at a conference. And she was just a breath of fresh air, just like the life and abundance of joy. And you prayed over me to get pregnant at that conference. I don't know if you
Did
remember that.
I? No.
You did.
Aw,
I
I
had not,
love
it was
that.
like 2015 maybe.
Yeah, it was a
Anyways,
long time
but
ago.
Amy has authored several books, Help Her Be Brave, and just a massive advocate in the pro-life movement. So Amy, I could keep going about you,
I know.
but
I was
we're
going
just
to
glad you're
say, yeah.
here.
I'm so
There's
excited to be here. And we just love Embrace Grace. We're so thankful for our partnership with you guys and 1212. And, because we haven't really got into what Embrace Grace is yet, but we work with some women that may lose their baby or miscarriage and things like that. And so we're just so thankful to have a partnering ministry that can come alongside us and say, let us help you with this part and help, equip the leaders around the nation to know how to minister, to sit with, to grieve with, all of the things these moms, because even though they found out they were unexpectedly pregnant and then maybe had lost their baby, they're still lost there in grief and all the emotions. So we are just so glad and thankful that we're doing this with you.
Thank you, Amy. Well, Amy, do you want to start us off just like maybe just sharing a little bit about you and then about Embrace Grace?
Yeah, well, my name's Amy Ford. I got 4 kids. I'm about to be a grandma. I'm so excited, but I'm not going to be called grandma or granny. I'm going to be a honey. And so
good.
that's like in 6 weeks she's due. And I'm so thankful. And it's my son and my daughter-in-law, and my son is my oldest. He is who I had an unexpected pregnancy with 25 years ago. And I almost had an abortion because I was so scared and terrified, went to the abortion clinic, paid for the abortion, everything. And I ended up at the last minute choosing life. And so now to see them married for the last 4 years, now having a little baby girl, like to see the legacy continue, I'm just so thankful for the courage at the last minute, to make a life decision, and that to see now, like I'm about to have a grandbaby. Like I'm just so, so thankful. And so going through all of that, even though I grew up in church, I didn't really feel like the church was a safe place to go to talk through my issue. I felt scared. I was ashamed. I went to church every single week, but this was not a topic that my pastor or church ever brought up ever. And so I didn't really make the assumption that they were safe to go to for prayer, wisdom, guidance, support, counsel. So we just went straight to the abortion clinic. And so it wasn't really until 10 years later when I found actually a church home that, like, oh my gosh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I signed up to decorate at a women's conference. I had never signed up to do anything at a church ever, and a Pink Impact. And so I ended up getting plugged in. And at that conference, though, God just like dreamed down this idea of at the time, I didn't know how big it was going to be, but it was very simple at the time. I saw a vision, and I've never had a vision before, and I've never had a vision since, but it was it was like snapshots. It was during worship. Carrie Job was leading worship, Carrie Job Carnes.
Mm.
And it was like snapshots that were so real right in front of me. And it was pictures of me 10 years before having an unplanned pregnancy. And I looked sad and I looked alone in these pictures. But then the snapshots changed. And that year I had thrown 13 baby showers for my girlfriends. Like, it was a baby boom with all my friends. And so I love throwing parties. I love celebrating. And so I'm kind of, a lot of times, or at least back then, was the hostess, So the snapshots changed to me throwing baby showers. And so I didn't really know what it meant. But as the thing ended, I ran into the groups pastor at the church and I said, can I tell you what I just saw? This is so weird. I've never experienced anything like this before. It looked so real. Like I could just put my hand out and touch these pictures in front of my face. So I told her what I saw and she said, oh, why don't you just start a small group for girls with unplanned pregnancies? And the baby shower maybe can be the hook to get them in the door. And there was something totally terrifying about what she said because I'd never led anything in my life. But then also there was something that just was stirring in my spirit of like, yes, you're supposed to do this. And so we named our group Embrace Grace. It was just a small group at our church. We had a few months to like figure out what we were going to do, what we we're going to teach. Back then, this was in 2008. There was no such thing as single and pregnant curriculum. So like, we were like, I don't know, and I've never led anything. We had prayed about a name. We felt like Embrace Grace was the name. And we happened to Google it. And there actually was a book called Embrace Grace. And they're like, that's so weird. There's a book called Embrace Grace by Liz Curtis Higgs. And so we ordered it, and it didn't have anything to do with being pregnant, but it was perfect. Like, it had letters to Liz in the margins, but Liz, I've been to jail, how can God have grace for me? And it was about salvation and healing and forgiveness and repentance. And it was just like, this is so simple, but yet so, so good and easy to read. Let's use this. And it was called Embrace Grace, which was so cool. So we did it. 3 girls came. One wore a coat in August in Texas because she was terrified of anyone stepping foot like, for her to step foot in the church and like anyone to see that she was pregnant. And they wouldn't make eye contact. They just kind of had this hopelessness about them, of that they didn't know what they wanted to do. There was one that was still abortion minded. Her mom had just begged her to come and just try it one time, before she made that decision. But it was amazing to see over 12 weeks, which is how long the group was, how they just came into themselves. It was like they started to have a spark and a sparkle in their eye, and their shoulders squared, and they were empowered as women to be the moms God created them to be. And by the end of it, they were ready. Like, they were still nervous, of course. I mean, I don't think we're ever ready to like have a baby. Like, it's always, whether you plan the baby or not, that's always a terrifying, situation. But like, they were ready. They were like, okay, I can do this. And I know that I'm not going to be alone. And they had gotten plugged into the church. It was awesome. And so we did it again. 3 more girls came, then 8, then 14, then 21. And it just started growing and growing. And then other churches started hearing about it, saying, this is really cool. Will you show us how to do it too? We started writing our own curriculum, still just thinking our own church. But by the time 2012 came along, so just about 4 years later, we were up to 10 churches. And we were like, what's happening right now? Like, this is crazy that this is sort of growing organically. And the church, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in this, it's like they want to help, but maybe they haven't known how to, or most of them want to help. And so 2012, we became the nonprofit, and then it's just kind of taken off from there. And so now we're in over 1,100 churches in all 50 states that have Embrace Grace support groups. So now people can lead a group at their church. We give them the digital curriculum. So you just press play, and powerful teachings are right there. We give you the handouts, the icebreaker questions, the digital training. You can watch at your own pace once you become a group, but you can lead a group just like you would lead any kind of a small group at your church. You would lead this group at your church. And how they find girls usually is definitely word of mouth, because girls do get pregnant in the church. The abortion rate is actually exactly the same inside the church as it is outside. There's no difference. So women are in our pews and they are pregnant and not sure what to do. But then also through local pregnancy centers that are all around the nation, which are a pro-life focused center that's totally free for the moms. They get a free sonogram, and they serve the moms in that way, and they tell them about their options and tell them the truth and the trauma around what an abortion is. And so they refer the moms to the local Embrace Grace groups in the churches, because we don't want it to just be a 12-week group where they go to. And of course we want healing, we want salvation, we want all of that. But we want that to be the stepping stone into the church, where they find community and where they find, we want them to raise their kids in the church. We want them to break generational patterns and serve and all of those things. So it's a great stepping stone into the church. And even as leading, like I've taken a couple of years off from leading my own group, but I'm getting ready to lead one actually a week from today or tomorrow, or it was a week from yesterday that we start. And I'm just so excited because all the girls, I've been kind of texting and reaching out and what's going on, and to see like where they're at right now. Like there's so much fear and unknown, and how is this going to work out? How am I going to afford this baby? I have baby daddy drama, what all of that stuff. But then I know what it looks like on the other side of this, and that by the end, they're not going to be the same. They may have some of the same hard circumstances they may be walking through, but there's a peace that they're going to have by the end of this, that it's beautiful to see that transformation happen as they surrender and hand everything over to the Lord and let him, take over. And it's just awesome. So we're getting ready just with my own group that I lead at my own church. So that is Embrace Grace.
I love that.
Amy, oh my goodness. I feel like there's so many things like I want to pull out of that. But I know before we hit record, we just were talking about purpose and how we can, really walk in that and say yes to the call that God has on our life. And so you said it a little bit, but when, you got that vision, were you like, hey, I can't do this. Lord, don't send me, like, no, I can't do it. Or were you like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm stepping into it.
Well, definitely there's been so many along the way of like, I can't do that. Even just leading with that, it didn't, like, I never knew it was going to be as big as it was. Like when we first got the vision, I was like, just thinking it's a small group. But even with just the small group, that was terrifying in itself of me. Like I've never led anything. I remember the first group we read out of the book a lot, which I have serious ADD. And like looking back, I'm like, why did I do that? Like, if anyone reads to me, I have no idea. It's words. There's words, and I have no idea what they're saying. But I mean, it worked. They felt the love from us, even if we had no idea what we were doing. And God was with us. He helped us every step of the way. And then when it was time, when we felt like it was maybe we are supposed to start a nonprofit, I ordered the IRS paperwork, to like start I was like, this is going to be fun. We're going to start. Cause I'm definitely a go-getter, even in the nervousness, I am a go-getter. So I get the paperwork and I'm like, oh, this is like a bit, like, this is like a business. There's bylaws and there's a board and there's like, you can go to jail if you if you don't do this right. And like, all of a sudden it's like, this legit. Is a lot. And the heaviness or the weight of like this, just, I don't need to do it just because it sounds like it would be fun. Like this, I have to make sure that that I'm not going ahead of God, that, that he's calling me to this. I know he's calling me to lead the group, but like this nonprofit this is a big, and I don't want to get 5 years down the road and think, did I hear God? Maybe I wasn't supposed to start this. And at that time, it was kind of just sitting heavy on my shoulders of like, okay, it was so thick, like all the paperwork and half of it, I didn't even understand what it was asking me. But I prayed and I just felt like the Lord, I felt like I needed a confirmation from God on I was supposed to start this. And so what I asked him to do, I said, God, if people ask me for the curriculum, I'll send it to them. I'll keep doing what you've called me to do. But as far as this actual nonprofit, I'll fill out the paperwork, but I want it because it cost about, if I can remember right, I think it was around $1,200. That was just like the IRS fees or whatever, I said, I think I want the money to fall from the sky. And that's how I'll know that you're saying yes to this. And even my husband was like, Amy, we'll pay for it. You're totally supposed to start this. And I said, no, I think I think I'm thankful that you are willing to do that, but I need it to come from somewhere else. Like I need mailbox money. I need something crazy that God's like, that you're supposed to do this. So I called my co-founder, Selena, and I told her what I felt like I wanted to do. And she said, I'm in agreement. Okay, sounds great. The next day, she was at a prayer meeting for the next Pink Impact Women's Conference. They were meeting every Saturday morning for a month leading up to that women would come together and pray. So she went to that and she was praying, and a totally random lady she had never met before walked up to her. And she's like, hi, I know you don't know me. This is totally random, but are you going on a missions trip? And Selena was like, no, I'm not going on a missions trip. And she's like, okay, well, does the word mission mean something to you? And Selena's like, well, we are starting this thing. And like on the IRS paperwork, you have to do your mission statement. And that's like page 1. You have to write it. And that was a whole thing in itself. It's like you have to put your whole dream in one sentence. You know, how do you're really working on the wording? And she said, have you heard of Embrace Grace? And Selena had asked the lady that, and the lady's like, no, I've never heard of it. So Selena explained it all to her. And so the lady said, well, how much is it that you need? Because I heard the Lord clearly say to fund your mission. And Selena told her, and she literally pulled out her checkbook and wrote a check for the whole thing. I still have a copy of the check, and the memo line, it has the scripture that says, how blessed are the feet that share the good news of the gospel.
Oh.
And wow. The other side of this is so that's like what started it all. And then we kind of lost track with her because back then we didn't have like donor tracking systems and things like that. We had nothing. So one day it was in the file cabinet, and I found a copy of the check, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder where this lady is. And does she know the significance of her obedience of this check? And so I went to see, do I know her? And so I looked on Facebook, and I have a lot of Facebook friends I'm friends with, but I don't really know them, you know? And so I'm like, I'm Facebook friends with her. She was kind of an older lady. I looked at her Facebook, and she didn't have any, or she hadn't posted it in like years. So I was like, I don't know if she's even active, but I didn't have any other, because that check had no phone number, no email, nothing. We didn't have anything other than that. So I sent her a Facebook message, not knowing if she would ever see it. And I just said, I need to tell you something. I don't know if you've heard of Embrace Grace, but you wrote us a check a long time ago. I need to tell you the story. So it was 2 months later, I heard from her.
Wow.
And she wrote me back, and she's like, I have heard of Embrace Grace, and I think I remember that day, and I would love to meet you. But the day she ended up messaging me, it was the day before the big baby shower that was at the church that we all went to at the time, and where she had given that check. And so I said, you know what? Even better. Will you come to something tomorrow night? I need you to see something. And she was like, actually, I am free. I can come. So she came, and it was like 30 moms, okay, that were all getting their baby shower gifts. I mean, it's 200 people were there. All these moms are getting all these gifts. And I was telling her the story. We talked about it. And she said, you know what? She was crying. And she said, you know what is so crazy to me? She said, I have never been able to have kids of my own.
Oh.
And she said, one time someone prophesied over me a long time ago, and they said, you're going to be the mother to many. And she said, I was mad at God for telling me that, because I've never been able to have a child. And she said, she's looking out over all of these women with a baby shower. She said, I know what that word means now. I said, you have no idea. Like,
it's crushed my soul.
Right. And you have no idea the impact of your obedience. Like, it started a movement. And that there are moms that are mothering because of your obedience. And so it was just like healing even for her. It was such a beautiful moment, you know, and to see. But yes, along the way, there's been so many of like, probably every other month, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm Googling, how do we run a nonprofit organization? Googling God. But it's working.
God. I love that.
Oh my gosh. I often think, like, if someone hacked my phone and looked up what I Googled, they would be like, wow, she does not know what she's doing half the time. Okay. You said something that triggered this thought in my brain. So I love that we get to like kind of partner with you guys in different ways, but I think there's something so powerful in the supernatural when a woman who's lacking something that was maybe unplanned by another woman, I just feel like it like cancels out every tactic of the enemy to bring, because both situations carry shame, like infertility and an unplanned pregnancy. which is so crazy that something so different can have like such a similar trigger or the same trigger. But I just feel like there's something so strong in the supernatural that terrifies the enemy whenever we like link arms and we're like, if you are preparing a nursery or you're begging the Lord to have one, he still hears that heart. He's still walking with you in that. And he's still silencing the shame that the enemy's trying to pour on you in that situation. I just had that thought.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're stronger together for sure.
Yes. I love that. I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And you made me cry.
I know, that's
So
incredible.
good.
God's purposeful puzzle pieces, I just think are just
Yes.
incredible. And so,
Yes.
Amy, just to the woman that's, listening to the
Hmm.
podcast right now and is just like, maybe just desires so much to be a mom, or maybe, she is a mom and she's just like, I know God has called me to something. I just don't know what it is. Like,
Good.
what would you say just to encourage her, about seeking the Lord and really stepping into her gifts and talents?
Well, that, there you have a mama's heart for a reason. And we need so many spiritual moms out in the world right now. I can't even tell you, like, there's so many young women that have no hope and they're walking through an unexpected pregnancy. Like, prayerfully consider leading an Embrace Grace group or whatever it is. Maybe it's serving at a pregnancy center. Maybe it is, writing encouraging notes and leaving them on mom's cars, whatever it might be that you can do in the season of life that you're in right now. Use that passion and that stirring in your heart to help the world, because there's just so many people that are like, God, do you see me? Do you hear me? And I love, like, Hagar was the first single mom in the Bible, and she referred to God as the God who sees.
Yeah.
And then Ishmael, the first kid that was born from a single mom, his name meant God hears. And so how, as we as believers, can help her feel seen by God? And a lot of times that's stepping out of our comfort zones, doing something crazy, like walking up to someone saying, hey, I have, maybe it's a word of encouragement. Maybe it's like, I felt like the Lord wanted me to pray for you, whatever it might be. And you might be like, okay, that probably wasn't God, but we know it wasn't the devil. And we know, it probably wasn't you either. Like, it's probably God. And to be obedient, because you have no idea the impact of that. And that what's in your hand right now, where you can get involved and help be a mom to a world that is lacking mothers. There are parents that are biological parents, but there's not a lot of mothering and fathering, especially fathering, out in the world. And we need more moms and dads and spiritual moms and dads out for this generation that feels so lost and alone.
Yes.
Yes. Amen. Yeah. Amen. Times a million. Yeah. Absolutely.
Times a million. Amy, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. And if anybody's listening, go to embracegrace.com and get all the info about starting a group.
Yes. Absolutely. We will put all of that in the show notes so you guys can get connected to Amy and Embrace Grace. And Amy, we love you. You're amazing. Thank you for just being a trailblazer. Thank you for your obedience.
Absolutely.
And we are cheering you on for sure.
Oh, thank you. We love you guys too. We're thankful to work with you.
Yes, ma'am. Love y'all.
Do we need to close, Holly? No, we're fine.
Am I closing? I don't remember. Every time, Amy. It's always me.
Ladies,
thank you. I stopped.